Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. This isn't a story about yelling, or breaking things, or dramatic exits in the rain. This is about what happens when you say nothing, and someone mistakes your silence for permission. The music wasn't even playing yet, and I already felt like I'd lost her. She stood in the hallway mirror, fixing a gold earring that shimmered against her neck like it had been waiting months to be worn. The same earring she once told me was too much for dinner with my parents. Now it was just right. For some rooftop party with coworkers I've never met and whose names keep changing every month. Her dress? New, tight, and I knew without asking that I didn't pay for it. "I won't be long," she said without turning. Her voice was light, like she was reminding herself of something. I nodded. That was all I did. A nod, because I already told her I didn't want her going. Told her I didn't like how her boss, Levi, talks about team bonding after 2 bottles of wine. Told her I had a bad feeling. But feelings don't matter when you're seen as clingy, or insecure, or my favorite, paranoid. So I said nothing more. She left at 7:04 p.m. I memorized the way her perfume lingered even after the door closed. It smelled different, not her usual, almost strategic. The house was so quiet after she left that I started inventing sounds. A car door slam 2 blocks away felt like thunder. The fridge's hum was a heartbeat. My own breathing was a reminder I was still there, still sitting, still waiting. She didn't text when she got there. Didn't answer when I asked if she'd eaten. I stared at the gray checkmark beside my message like it was a middle finger. By 11 p.m., I convinced myself I was being dramatic. By 1 a.m., I started hoping her phone had just died. By 2:15 a.m., I stopped hoping. I started imagining. When she came in at 2:39, her shoes were in her hand, and she didn't say a word. Not sorry. Not you're awake. Just a quiet walk past me on the couch like I was a painting hanging in the hallway. She went straight to the bathroom. I heard water run, but not the shower. The door never locked, and that's how I knew something was off. But what confirmed it, the thing that would replay in my mind for days, was what I found the next morning. It wasn't a text. It wasn't a call. It was something far worse. The morning sunlight was already creeping through the blinds by the time I stood up from the couch. My back ached. My eyes felt heavy. But my mind, it was racing in places it had no business going. I didn't want to check her phone. I really didn't. I've always believed that if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it. But sometimes, silence becomes unbearable. It eats at you. And in that moment I needed something, anything, that would prove I was just being overly sensitive. That all of it was in my head. Clarice was still asleep, curled up on her side like someone who had nothing to hide. Her face was peaceful, like she hadn't tiptoed in at nearly 3 in the morning. Like she hadn't looked me in the eyes and walked past as if I was a stranger in her house. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen down. For the first time in what felt like years, there was no password lock on it. That alone made my stomach tighten. She always locked her phone. Always. I picked it up, hesitating for a full minute. My heart was pounding louder than it had any right to. I wasn't even sure what I was expecting to find. Maybe some harmless photos. A text from her friend Dana complaining about the wine. A couple of awkward work selfies. Something to calm me down. But no. The first thing I saw was a message thread labeled, "Levi clinking glasses." Her boss. The most recent text read, "Last night was everything. I still taste you." My hands went cold. My fingers froze, hovering above the screen. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My ears rang with that high-pitched, muted scream you hear in movies after an explosion. Except this wasn't a movie. This was my wife. My marriage. I scrolled up, hoping it was some sick inside joke, some misunderstanding. But it wasn't. There were photos, dimly lit selfies from what looked like the party rooftop. His arm around her waist. Her face tilted up toward his with flushed cheeks and bedroom eyes. Then there was a video. I didn't play it. Couldn't. Just the thumbnail. Her laughing with a drink in her hand. Sitting in his lap was enough. There was also a draft message she'd typed but never sent, saved in the Notes app. "I can't keep doing this and lying to Milton, But I'm not ready to leave either. He still thinks I'm his. It's easier this way. For now. I sat back on the bed, still holding the phone. She shifted slightly in her sleep, mumbling something I couldn't make out. And in that moment, the floor didn't fall out from under me. No, it was worse. Everything stood still, frozen in time. I was holding proof of betrayal, but I felt nothing. Not anger, not heartbreak, just this strange emptiness. Like I'd already disappeared from her world long ago and just hadn't noticed. I didn't wake her. I didn't scream. I just set the phone down gently, stood up, and left the room like a ghost floating through a home that no longer felt like mine. I went downstairs, sat on the back porch, and stared at the sky until the sun was fully up. And as I sat there, I realized I couldn't unsee it, couldn't unknow it. But the worst part? I still didn't know what to do. And that's when I got a message from someone I never expected. I didn't go back upstairs that morning. I stayed on the porch long enough for the sun to warm my arms and make me forget, for just a second, that everything had shattered. The birds were singing like they always did. The neighborhood slowly waking up around me like nothing had changed. But everything had. And I had no idea how to begin pretending that it hadn't. I sat there, unmoving, watching the screen of my phone dim and brighten again. A silent loop waiting for a notification that would distract me from the knot in my chest. That's when it buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I'm sorry. You don't know me, but you deserve the truth. First, I thought it was spam. A scam maybe. But then another message came through, this time with a picture. It was Clarice from the night before. Same dress, same rooftop, but this wasn't a party pic. She was sitting on Levi's lap in what looked like a lounge chair, her head on his shoulder, his hand around her thigh. The angle made it obvious that the person who sent it wasn't part of the group. It was taken from a distance, through a window or behind a curtain maybe. Then the third message came. I work with them. She thinks no one notices, but everyone talks. I felt guilty watching this go on without saying something. I figured if I were in your shoes, I'd want to know. My hands were shaking. I read the message 3 times, trying to find any sign it wasn't real. But the timestamp on the photo matched the time she walked in. The dress, the hair, the earrings, it was all her. And suddenly, I felt like the biggest fool in the world. All those nights she came home late from strategy sessions or team drinks. All the times she swore I didn't understand how corporate life worked. Maybe I didn't, but I knew what betrayal looked like now. I could see it in pixels. I didn't reply to the stranger. Couldn't. I didn't even know what I'd say. Instead, I walked back inside, every step of the staircase heavier than the last. I paused at the bedroom door. Clarice was up, hair in a messy bun, scrolling her phone like it was any other Sunday. She glanced at me and gave a half smile. No guilt, no awkwardness, nothing. Morning, she said casually. Coffee's not made yet, sorry. I stared at her. Not in anger, just confusion. How could she act like this? Like nothing had happened? Like the messages, the pictures, the lies weren't still burning in my chest? I walked into the room, sat down across from her and said nothing. She raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to scream and demand answers. But instead, I reached into my pocket and placed my phone on the table between us. The image was still on the screen, her Levi, that moment she thought was hidden. She looked down. Her face drained in an instant. And then, just like that, Clarice did something I didn't expect. She laughed. Not loud, not cruel. Just a breathy, almost relieved chuckle. Like a secret had finally slipped and she was free from holding it in. You weren't supposed to see that, she said softly. I just stared. And then she added, but I'm not sorry you did. She stood up, calm as ever, and walked into the bathroom. Not a single apology. Not even a tear. That was the moment I realized. I hadn't lost her that night. I'd lost her long before, and I'd been too quiet, too small, too patient to notice. And now that I finally saw the truth, I had a choice to make. But before I could figure that out, my phone buzzed again, with another message. This time, it wasn't from a stranger. It was from Levi. And what he said next flipped the story upside down. I stared at the screen for a full minute before I opened the message. Just seeing his name flash across my phone felt like someone was twisting something deep inside my chest. Levi. The man who'd been smiling in my face through polite handshakes and company holiday photos while apparently building an entire second life with my wife. I didn't want to hear what he had to say, but curiosity, the same kind that led me to look at her phone, always wins when you're already broken. The message read, "I assume you've seen the pictures by now. It was never supposed to go that far. I swear it started as a joke." A joke. He called it a joke. He sent another one right after. "She said you two were basically roommates, that you hadn't touched each other in over a year, that you were emotionally checked out." I believed her. Maybe I wanted to. I wanted to crush the phone in my hands. What kind of man hears that someone's marriage is struggling and sees it as an invitation? I'd heard excuses before, but this was a whole different level of betrayal. Not just from Clarice. From someone who knew me, who stood beside me at a charity dinner, who once complimented the watch she gave me for our anniversary. And then a third message came, this one colder. "Look, I'm not proud of it, but if you think I'm the only one, you really haven't been paying attention." That line cut deeper than the others. If you think I'm the only one. I reread it 5, maybe 6 times. Was he bluffing? Trying to deflect blame? Or was he serious? Had there been others? How long had this gone on while I was busy making excuses for her late nights, her distance, her changing moods? I didn't respond. There was nothing I could say to someone like that. I just sat there trying to piece together the timeline. How long had she been slipping away while I stayed silent, thinking things would fix themselves? I used to believe that love was quiet, that real love didn't need to be loud or dramatic. But maybe all my silence had ever done was make me invisible. I went back upstairs. Clarice was at the vanity, curling her hair, humming like it was just another normal day. She looked at me in the mirror and asked, "Are you going to keep staring at me like a ghost? Or are you going to say something?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "How many?" Her hand paused mid-curl. "How many what?" "You know what." She turned to face me fully now, no trace of guilt. "Does it really matter? You already think I'm awful. What difference does it make?" I waited. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up, crossed her arms, and said, "You were always so easy to lie to, Milton. That's the part one hated the most. You never even made me feel bad about it." There was no remorse, just detachment, like she was reciting lines from a play she no longer cared to finish. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I wanted to cry, but the tears had dried up sometime around last night. And then, like it couldn't get worse, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, and for the first time she looked nervous. She grabbed it quickly, tried to walk past me. But I reached out, took it from her hand before she could stop me. The name on the screen wasn't Levi. It wasn't Dana either. It was someone I never would have imagined. And the message? It would finally explain everything. Everything I missed, everything she hid, and why this betrayal went far deeper than just a fling. When I saw the name on her screen, something in my chest snapped. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, internal, like the final crack in an already splintered glass. The message had come from Eden, my sister. Clarice lunged for the phone, but I stepped back. I didn't need to scroll. I just tapped the notification and watched the conversation unfold like a slow-motion car crash I couldn't look away from. There were no pictures, no hearts, no explicit messages, just familiarity. Way too much of it. Inside jokes. Late-night miss you texts. Clarice telling Eden how he doesn't even ask questions anymore, and Eden responding with things like, "He never did. You know that." Couldn't breathe. It was worse than cheating with a stranger. Worse than Levi. This was family. This was my blood. "Milton, please," Clarice said, her voice suddenly softer, maybe for the first time in days. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I had no idea what else to do. "Then help me out," I said quietly, "because it looks like my wife has been confiding in my sister about how to lie to me." Clarice went pale. We didn't. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? She didn't answer. Her silence said more than words could. I dropped the phone on the dresser and backed out of the room. I wasn't ready to deal with her. Not yet. I needed space and answers and air. I walked out the front door, not knowing where I was going, only that I had to move. My head was pounding. My thoughts were spinning. My sister and my wife. Not romantically, no, but emotionally. That betrayal felt just as personal. They were talking behind my back, making fun of how predictable I was, planning things together like I was just a minor inconvenience standing between them and whatever secret bond they thought they had the right to forge. I called Eden. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. Then a text arrived from her. Milton, don't do this. It's not what you think. Please don't blow it all up. Blow it all up? I had been living in the wreckage, and she was worried about explosions? I sat in my car, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I thought back to the last family barbecue, just 2 months ago. Clarice and Eden laughing together over drinks, whispering, disappearing to grab more ice. I thought it was sweet that they were close, that Clarice had finally found a place in my family. But now I saw it differently. Every glance, every laugh, every sideways look I wasn't supposed to notice. I drove around for an hour with no destination, just looping through old neighborhoods and memories I didn't want anymore. Eventually, I pulled into a grocery store parking lot and just sat there, staring at the shopping carts. And then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Clarice or Eden. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the message made my blood run cold. You don't know me, but I know Clarice. We need to talk. She's not who you think she is, and I have proof. My first thought? It was a scam. My second thought? I didn't care. If there was even a chance the stranger knew more than I did, I had to know. I replied, "Who are you?" The answer came almost instantly. She used to be my wife too. And just like that, my world cracked open in a way I hadn't thought possible. I sat there frozen in that parking lot, reading those 6 words over and over. She used to be my wife too. The message didn't make sense at first. Clarice had never been married before, at least not according to anything she ever told me. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 4. And she always said I was her first everything, first real love, first real home, first real commitment. But apparently I wasn't even the first husband. I took a breath and typed back, "What are you talking about? Who are you?" His reply came within seconds. "My name's Jonah. Clarice and I were married in Arizona, 2014 to 2018. She disappeared, took money from our account and vanished, changed her number. I never saw her again, until a coworker of mine showed me a picture of her. With you." My stomach turned. Disappeared? Took money? Changed her name? No, couldn't be real. This had to be some elaborate joke. Maybe Levi again, screwing with me to twist the knife deeper. So I asked for proof. Within a minute, he sent me a picture, a wedding photo. And there she was, Clarice, standing in a white lace gown, holding Jonah's hand. Her hair was shorter, darker, but it was her. Her face, her smile, her eyes. No denying it. I felt sick. I asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" His reply, "Because I know how it feels to think you're the only one being lied to, and because she ruined me, and I think she's doing it to you now." I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want this to be true. I wanted to pretend this was some twisted coincidence. But everything started lining up in my head. The way she always avoided questions about her past. The way she deflected when I asked about old friends, why she never had any photos from before 2019. I thought she was just private, guarded, maybe even a little embarrassed. But now I realized she'd scrubbed her life clean before meeting me. Like she'd started over. And I had no idea who she really was. Jonah said he'd been trying to track her down for years. Not because he wanted her back, but because she left owing him more than money. He said she had patterns. That Levi wasn't the first affair, and probably wouldn't be the last. Then he said something that chilled me. "Check your accounts." That was it. No context. Just those words. I hung up the call and immediately opened our joint bank app. Everything looked normal at first glance, balance seemed right. No massive withdrawals. But then I clicked into the savings account. It was empty, completely zeroed out. That account had over $23,000 in it just 2 weeks ago. It was supposed to be for a house, a down payment, our future. Now it was gone. She had emptied it. Clarice had planned this. All of it. The party, the distance, the timing. Everything had been orchestrated behind that fake smile. And I'd been too wrapped up in my own quiet suffering to see the storm coming. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the screen. Every second that passed, I felt less like a husband and more like a prop in someone else's script. Placeholder. Target. But one thing was clear now, Clarice wasn't done. And if I didn't act fast, I had a sinking feeling she was going to disappear again. Just like she did with Jonah. What I did next, I'm still not sure if it was smart or reckless. But it was the only thing I could think of. I didn't go home right away. I didn't call Clarice or confront her. I didn't even cry. I just sat behind the wheel, heart pounding, sweat soaking the back of my shirt, despite the AC blasting in my face. My mind was spinning so fast it felt like the car was moving even when it wasn't. Every word Jonah said repeated over and over like a cruel chant in my head. She left. She vanished. She took everything. Check your accounts. And now she was doing it again. She didn't just lie to me. She constructed a version of herself so convincing that I never thought to question it. Every day I came home. Every kiss on the cheek. Every, "I'm tired from work," excuse. It had all been built on a foundation of smoke and glass. And I finally saw the cracks. I drove back toward the house, but I didn't go in. Instead, I parked a block away, waited, and watched. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I had this horrible feeling in my gut that Clarice wasn't planning to stick around much longer. And if she left now, if she disappeared like she did before, there'd be nothing I could do. No money, no closure, no revenge. Just another broken man staring at a locked front door, wondering how he let it happen. At 6:12 p.m., she walked out the front door with a small rolling suitcase. Not a big one, just small enough to look innocent. She didn't see me. She got into a black Toyota Corolla that pulled up without even stopping the engine. She didn't text, didn't check over her shoulder. She just climbed in like she'd done this before. And maybe she had. I started the engine and followed them. They drove through town casually. No speeding, no back roads, no sign they knew anyone might be behind them. I stayed 3 cars back, heart thudding like a drum in my throat. They eventually pulled into a modest 2-story house on the edge of town. Not a hotel, not a bar, a house, a neighborhood, safe, familiar. She walked in like she'd been there before. That was the part that broke me. She used a key. I parked down the street and waited. 10 minutes, 15, 30. Then I got out. I needed to know who lived there. I needed to see with my own eyes how far this deception had gone. I crept closer, ducking behind trees, hedges, cars. I know how pathetic that sounds, but if you've ever loved someone who looked you in the eyes while stabbing you in the back, you understand why I did it. The curtains were half open. The lights were on. And there she was, Clarice, standing in a kitchen I'd never seen, laughing, pouring wine. Not just with Levi, with another man, older, sharp-dressed, confident, definitely not a coworker. He kissed her, not like someone who just met her, like someone who'd been doing it for a while. Then something in me cracked for real. I wasn't even angry. I was numb. My hands were cold, my lips dry. I realized I didn't even know how many lives Clarice had been living at once. How many of me were out there. Men who thought they knew her, trusted her, dreamed with her. I pulled out my phone and took photos. I didn't even think about it. My hands moved on their own. I needed proof, evidence, something real to look at later when I started doubting what I saw. But just as I was about to leave, something happened that turned my blood to ice. The man, whoever he was, handed her an envelope. She opened it, counted the money inside, and then nodded. She kissed him again. Slower this time. It wasn't love. It was business. Clarice wasn't just cheating. She was trading something, or someone. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just being betrayed. I was being used. And the worst part? I still didn't know for what, but I was going to find out. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car for hours outside that unfamiliar house, watching shadows move behind the curtains, trying to piece it all together. Clarice had lied, cheated, drained our savings, and now it looked like she was being paid. I had no idea what she was offering, but I finally understood one thing. She wasn't the person I married. She was a story I had believed in, one I clung to long after the last page had turned. But this wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about control, and I was done letting her write the ending. By morning, I had a plan. First, I visited the bank in person and froze every account. I explained what had happened, quietly, calmly, like someone filing a police report. The teller looked uncomfortable, but she helped me. I changed passwords, canceled cards, and opened a new account in my name only. It was the first step in reclaiming something I didn't even realize I'd given up. Myself. Next, I gathered every piece of evidence, texts, photos, the messages from Jonah. I printed them all, sealed them in an envelope, and mailed a copy to myself, just in case. Then I went home, packed a small bag, and left her a note on the kitchen counter. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just wrote what she never expected to read. You no longer have access to my life, or my future. The next chapter doesn't include you. I moved in with my cousin across town. It's small, it's quiet, but it's mine. Clarice called a few times, voicemails filled with fake confusion, fake tears, fake apologies. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because for once I wasn't afraid of being the one who walked away. I was proud of it. A week later, I got a message from Jonah. She tried to reach me too. She's spiraling. I didn't reply. Some people are storms, you can't reason with them, only survive them. And I did. I'm rebuilding now. Slower than I'd like, but with more intention than ever. I started painting again. Something I gave up years ago because she called it a waste of time. Turns out it wasn't. It was therapy. And this time, no one gets to take it from me. So here I am. Still healing, still hurt, but free. I shared my story not for pity, but because someone out there might be sitting on a couch like I was, wondering why their silence doesn't bring peace. If that's you, let me say this clearly. Silence is not safety. Speak. Ask. Question. And if they lie, walk. Thanks for watching this full story unfold here on Reddit Confessions. If you made it this far, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What part of this story shocked you the most? Was it Eden's involvement? Jonah's message? The final moment in that kitchen? And most importantly, have you ever ignored your instincts like I did? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories like this one. Until next time, stay aware, stay strong.